And we've got EFL Trophy action. Semi-final, one game away from Wembley. It's Bradford against Wycombe. Watching this one for us, Sam Avery. Evening, Sam.
Yeah, evening, Luke. 3 changes from their weekend draw against Oxford. In come David Wheeler, Sam Vokes and Luke Leahy. For Bez Labala, Kane Vincent-Young, and also Kieran Sadlier. A bit of a big omission that. Sadlier out through illness. He's been playing well recently, but good to see Wycombe recalling the likes of Vokes and Leahy, plus Wheeler as well. So a lot of experience in the team today for Wycombe on what is a pretty awful pitch here at the University of Bradford Stadium. The Chairboys lining up with Max Strayek in goal, a back four of Leahy, Tafazoli, Lowe and Grimmer, Potts and Scow in the midfield, with McCleary, Taylor and Wheeler behind striker Vokes. On the bench for Wycombe, Ravizoli, Jacobson, Butcher, Lomvike, Kone, McCarthy and Vincent Young as well. For Bradford City, they've made 4 changes, including a start for their second choice goalkeeper Colin Doyle, who's played all of their EFL Trophy games this season. They're also without top scorer Andy Cook, who is suspended. He was sent off in their quarter-final win over Doncaster, so he's missing as well for Bradford City. It's the first ever meeting in this competition between these two sides. The winner will play at Wembley against Peterborough on Sunday the 7th of April. Neither side have ever got to the final of this competition. Wycombe are aiming for a 3rd Wembley appearance in 5 seasons. Bradford City aiming for a first Wembley visit since 2017. Graham Alexander, the Bradford manager, he has been to an EFL Trophy final before. He took Salford to the final of this competition 4 years ago. He's got a great record in this competition, Alexander. 13 wins from his last 14 EFL Trophy games as manager. It's not going to be easy for Wycombe. Bradford City against Wycombe Wanderers.
First and foremost, let's just address the pitch tonight, because we got a message from you a little bit earlier on that there was actually a pitch inspection. Now, what was the pitch inspection for? Just the quality of the pitch? Was it waterlogged? Is it frozen? What was the situation?
I mean, yeah, it looks fairly waterlogged. I mean, we were kind of basing this on an assumption. There's been nothing official from either side about any pitch inspection, but from watching here in the press area, it looked like there was a pitch inspection taking place, because the referee had the ball in his hands and he was throwing the ball on the floor as referees do when they want to test the bounce of the ball and what have you. And there were 5 or 6 ground staff with pitching forks desperately trying to flatten things out and get as much water that sat on the surface off the pitch as possible. They seem to have done a decent enough job, and certainly looking at the forecast, no rain is forecast for the remainder of this evening, certainly until the early hours of the morning. So yeah, we should be okay to play the game. Both sets of goalkeepers are out warming up. I'm sure the players will be out of the tunnel to do the same shortly. So as far as we know right now, the game is going ahead. And look, I mean, it doesn't look great, but it looks playable, I'd say. Yeah,
it certainly doesn't look great, that's for sure. I've seen pictures of it. It looks absolutely awful. You asked Matt Bloomfield the question, is this the biggest game in his managerial career? I mean, it has to be. There's an opportunity to get to Wembley. I mean, he played it down to a certain extent. I understand why, but it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it has to be. I mean, at Colchester, he had a couple of decent cup games there, and did okay in the league. And Wycombe's league is heading towards kind of mid-table obscurity, which isn't necessarily a bad thing for a full first season in charge for Matt Bloomfield. But what it means is that the league games between now and the end of the season aren't going to be terrific spectacles, and they probably haven't been up till now. So it puts more emphasis on games like this. It's a semi-final. It's a chance to get to Wembley. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it has to be the biggest game of his managerial career so far. And he made a good point that yes, he kind of hinted that it might be, but he wants more days like this. He doesn't want this to be the pinnacle, obviously. He's a young manager who wants to have a good future in the game as manager of Wycombe, and I'm sure he has ambitions to manage higher up, as every manager does. So yeah, he'll be wanting this to be the first of many big games, but yeah, I'm sure it's got to be the biggest game of his managerial career so far.
And Peterborough through into the final already last night, beating Blackpool quite convincingly.
Yeah, that looked a very one-sided affair.
Didn't it?
Peterborough at Blackpool, which is quite surprising, because Peterborough had actually been in quite poor form. They obviously lost to Wycombe a couple of weeks back, and they lost again to Blackpool, funny enough, in the league on Saturday. So, Blackpool losing to them at home was actually a little bit of a surprise. But we know how good Peterborough are when they turn up. They did turn up against Wycombe, really, a couple of weeks back. But when they're on it, Peterborough, and they've got all their players back fit, which they seem to have done now. They were missing Mason Clark and Poku for the game against Wycombe a week and a half ago. They had them back last night, and that obviously made a massive difference. And yeah, they absolutely battered Blackpool. And if that kind of Peterborough turns up in the final, then Wycombe or Bradford, whoever goes through tonight, needs to be at their absolute best to give them a decent game.